The problem with being an entrepreneur is that you start obsessed with something and it becomes kind of your life mission, and you go and follow that. And then these concepts like work-life balance, health, sanity, they go out the window, and you're just really pushing and pushing and pushing. And then what ends up happening if you start succeeding is that you start getting more blessings and fortunes. And then you get into a position where you can go up for air, and you find that you're a bit asymmetrical as a person. So certain parts of yourself get hyper developed, like your ability to solve complex problems and public speaking and your ability to perform well under stress. But then other things like your interpersonal relationships and potentially your capacity to express emotions and empathy, other such things maybe got stunted because you underdeveloped them. You kind of put them on hold for 5, 10 years while you're building your company. So what I've been trying to do in the last few years has been take some time to really develop up that corpus. So I've been meditating a lot more. I went to a silent meditation retreat for a whole week, and I bought the ranch and I raised bison, and I've been trying really hard to connect to the earth, and so I grow a lot of stuff. For everything from mycological endeavors where I grow lion's mane to hydroponic crops to hay in the fields, these types of things, and it grounds you a lot. The other thing is I've been trying very heavily to improve empathy. That's one I've thought about a lot too. A lot of people say, well, why are you talking about toxicity? Suck it up, buttercup. Well, if you're that materialistic and that much of an asshole, I'll sell it to you this way. It hurts your investment. Toxicity prevents more people from coming in. It prevents the growth of the ecosystem. Who the hell wants to go to a bar when they walk in the front door, there's a bar fight? You're like, nah, I'm going to turn around and go somewhere else because I don't want none of this. If you have immensely negative, toxic people everywhere and everything is so politicized and factioned, and the minute you step in, like, for example, Fortune 500 adoption, we live in a situation in this industry right now that if a company like Microsoft or Apple decides to do a blockchain project, they will get from day one brutalized for not picking blockchain X or Y and for picking blockchain Z. Normally when you do a product announcement, you're excited. It's wow, they're doing this innovative thing, Microsoft HoloLens. And they say, how dare you run that on Ethereum? How dare you run that on Bitcoin or something like that? So as a Fortune 500 company, you start thinking, well, maybe I shouldn't do anything in this crypto space. So you've just now denied our industry as a whole tens of millions of new users who will float around and have preferences across the board. So even if Samsung or Ethereum or Microsoft or Google pick blockchain X, by bringing their user base there, they've just brought in 10 million new crypto users or something like that, or a billion. And that's good for us all. Because you always have to understand the root cause of why people have issues. What's their hidden pain or their issue? A lot of these criticisms are projections. They don't have confidence in themselves or projects, or they're concerned about something, so they try to project it onto others in some way to alleviate the issue. There is some legitimate criticism. I mean, if you're too slow or something like that, and that's an issue more of values. So, a lot of people feel, for example, Cardano's too slow to market. Okay. But we could be real quick to market and half our software can't work. Would that be okay? Would it be okay if every week we had $1 billion stolen? Or something like that, like what we're seeing in the industry as a whole? Would that be an acceptable outcome? But we ship software 5 times faster, and then you have to ask yourself, well, what are the values behind that? When people say you're too slow, well, it's because they want money. They figured if you get a larger network effect, the token price goes up, and then they can get a Lamborghini. So are they really doing anyone any service or any good if the vision, mission, and goals are about changing the world, not about making a speculator rich? So you have to categorize the toxicity and the criticism and understand the root cause of it. Is it a concern or an issue? Is it just personal greed? Is it a misunderstanding? Is it tribalism? Whatever it happens to be. And then just communicate with people the self-defeating nature of what they're doing and how they're communicating, and say, look, we can go down this road. You're not going to win, but let's say we go down this road. At the end of the day, all you're doing is hurting the ecosystem as a whole. We went from a static and federated system that didn't have smart contracts, that had a very small community, that had a very little liquidity, to an ecosystem in the top 10 with, over 100 exchanges, 2 million people, 130 dApps being built, 2 million assets issued on it. We've gone from the Byron era to the Shelley era to the Goguen era successfully. We've never had a major downtime in the network history. Hundreds of billions of dollars of value have been moved in the year 2021. And we also have written 130 academic papers. We defined the entire science of proof of stake. And we learned an enormous amount along the way about new development models, like, for example, extended UTXO, which is the only way, in my view, to bring smart contracts to Bitcoin. And it enables things like Mithril and Hydra in short order. So I think a lot's been accomplished. And when people look back at all of that, they'd say, okay, if somebody told you we'd achieve all of that in a 4-year period, would you take that deal? They say, of course. And they'd say, you're crazy to see that kind of growth and that kind of systematic effort and so forth. But what they do is they get so caught on the narrow and say, well, smart contracts were supposed to be here, or decentralization is supposed to be here. We had to rewrite the software 3 times. There were major changes in architecture and vendors. There were approaches that were taken that didn't work out. There were course delays. Well, Vitalik said that in 2015, he said